I saw Hurricane Heist, and Steve saw Strangers Pray at Night.
Yes.
That's the
Christian flick.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a real wholesome film about people spotting some people they didn't know in a park at night.
Well, it was
just
actually
all praying.
It was actually God's Not Dead 3, Strangers Pray at Night.
Oh, sweet. No, that's God's Not Dead 3 is coming out. Different subtitle. Anyway, we're defending these movies to Charlie, so let's see if we can do that properly on the other side.
Are you ready for Movie Versus? Welcome to Movie Versus, the podcast where we pin two terrible movies in an all-out battle for the best of the worst. Here are your hosts, Tyler Lamb, Charlie Pixley, and Steve Janik. All on Movie Versus!
What's up, everybody? My name's Tyler Lamb. This is Movie Versus, the podcast in defense of bad movies. I already said my name. This is
always got to be first.
This is a full episode 53, I believe. I'm here with my co-host Steve Janik. How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good. Just saw my movie this morning, so
yeah.
It's all fresh.
Same.
Which is good because I forgot to bring a notebook, so I don't have my Steve Janik staple.
Oh, see, I saw mine this morning, but I still took notes, which is not a Tyler Lamb staple.
Yeah, that's weird.
I feel like this is the second time we've had you not take notes and me take notes on a movie.
Yes.
And then Charlie Pixley. What's up, Chuck?
Things feel off now.
Yeah, you don't even know the world feels at a tilt, which doesn't make sense to you because you know it's flat.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, we'd all be just slowly rolling down then.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't know this was a science podcast.
Okay. Well, now you know. Okay, so on this podcast, what we really do is we see bad movies and we try to make them sound good to a third person that did not see either of the movies, and he has to decide who he believes. And on this episode, Charlie is the one deciding.
Charlie is the decider.
He is the decider. Is that a reference to something?
It's an old George W. Bush joke.
Yeah,
like he referred to
decider.
himself as the decider. And it was
that when the mission was accomplished?
I don't know. I never thought that was as big of a deal as a lot of people made the decider portion out to be.
Was that when he made sure to let you know that you can't fool him? Fool him once, shame on you. Fool him twice, can't get fooled again. So, Charlie, we'll just go ahead and we can just jump right in. I saw Hurricane Heist and Stevie saw Strangers Pray at Night. That's what we went over in the cold open. So, Charlie.
But now it's warm, so let's go.
Yeah.
Steve, let her rip. Tell me
let her
about
rip?
this movie.
Let her
Not your
rip.
Okay.
We're tired of me farting on the podcast.
That was one time. Anyway. So this movie starts off with a family and they're getting ready to leave, and you kind of really don't know what's going on. Christina Hendricks comes in and tells the daughter that it's time for them to leave.
She's in this movie?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Was she in the trailer?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No,
Huh.
I don't think so.
Maybe at her request.
yeah. Please remove me from all media.
Miss me with that trailer.
Yeah.
But
they still miss me with that bullshit.
So they're getting ready to go on a trip somewhere, and you don't really know why. And the daughter is clearly upset about the whole thing, and you find out that she's kind of a troubled youth. She's skipping school and smoking and all that stuff, like all the things. So she's actually being sent to boarding school. So
she's
going
a fucking
on a trip.
badass.
They're going on a trip to take her to boarding school, and they're going to stop by at one of their family members runs I guess it's kind of like a vacation trailer park type area, and like for the summer, like they get a lot of summer rentals, but not during the year. So
just like an RV park.
Yeah.
Stop along a cross country trip or something.
Exactly. So they're going to be staying there. Well, it is kind of like a vacation area because they have like in the ground double wides and stuff.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
it's some sort of like resort type park sort of place. So they're gonna stop by there, visit them, stay in one of the trailers for the night because they don't have a lot of business, so they're free to hang out there for the night, and then they're gonna go on to the boarding school in the next morning. And the movie starts off with those two family members getting killed. So like the truck comes in, playing some music, and there's a knock on the door. Their aunt comes out to check, and as she goes out to check to see if anyone's there, no one's there, but someone's already in the house, and they kill her, and then kill her husband.
How soon is this into the movie?
This killing takes place
Before the title card?
Before the title card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then of course the family goes to this place. They go into the main office, and they find a letter that says, "Go to this trailer. We'll see you in the morning for breakfast," because they got a late start, so they pull into the trailer park like real late at night. And it has the strangers like smiley face that they use for stuff.
Their
like,
calling card.
Yeah, I guess their calling card.
Their real Joker symbol.
Right.
Classic.
So it's clearly them kind of setting up.
The real Riddler graffiti.
Yes. So it's clearly them setting up for like their preparation, like they kind of know where they're going to be, so they can put their plan into motion that night. And it kind of they go up, and one of the girls goes up and asks them if someone's home. Like, clearly you're lost, and she does it again, and that kind of freaks the parents out. But
I just like the idea of somebody going up to someone and saying, "You're clearly lost."
well, they didn't go up to her, but they're like, "I'm sorry, you have the wrong trailer." But then she comes back, and they're like, yeah, we already told you that she's not here. Are you lost? Mm-hmm. You need us to call somebody for you?" And then she just kind of like walks away.
Okay.
But the daughter is still really pissed off about the whole situation, so she kind of goes off and to smoke, and the parents are like, "You know what? You're her brother. Please go talk to her. You know, maybe she'll listen to you more than us, because whenever we talk to her, she just gets mad. So, you know, you're her older brother. Maybe you can talk some sense into her, and kind of, I guess, talk to her as another kid who's doing a little bit better with whatever's going on."
Yeah.
So when that happens, they end up stumbling upon their aunt and uncle and find out that they're dead. So they start to run back to the trailer, and then that ends up with Christina Hendricks and the daughter moving off, and then the father and son kind of going off. And then that's when kind of everything kind of takes off.
Wait, why they split up? You mean?
Because the dad wants to go in and double check to see what's going on at the house. Like, "Oh yeah, you found the dead bodies. We're gonna go look at that. Call the cops. Like, you guys go back to the trailer, lock it and hide in there, and then we'll be back as soon as we
good
get
idea.
this taken care of." Yeah, the initial split up, always the best decision in all horror movies. So, but
I mean, when they had all the people of color in the one group, then they know.
But the dad also knows that there's a gun. Like, they own a gun, so he's like, "We can get their gun, like, protect ourselves," sort of situation.
Sure.
So, and then from there, it's just kind of a cat and mouse sort of game of the strangers, you know, attacking them, kind of doing creepy things while they do some fighting back. There's running, there's fighting back, and we'll probably get into more of that later. But it's all of that, and then there's an ending which I don't want to spoil. We'll probably get to that as well.
Okay.
But
good.
I was just gonna say the basic is from that point on. There's the setup, and then from then on, it's just the night unfolding as they kind of try to not die and try to fight back occasionally.
Did you watch or you said you had seen the first
one.
Strangers? Yeah, because you said you were struggling in the theaters.
Yes.
This is a real T&J.
Were there any other people
Tom and Jerry
at the park?
There were no other people at the park, but a sheriff does stumble, because they do get a call out momentarily, and before the line goes dead, I think it was one of those. There were two they tried to call once because there was a cell phone debacle. The parents collect the cell phones. They're like, "Hey, come on, let's just hang out for one night, try to be a family again." After they leave, and when they return to the thing, all the phones are smashed. So Christina Hendricks gets a call out, but the phone's pretty dead, so I don't think they can hear her.
Sure.
So that one doesn't go through, and then the son at some point calls from the main office before they pull the cord on that, and he gets out where they are, and so I think a sheriff is like, "Well, just go swing by and check it out," and he shows up for a minute. But like for the most part, there's no other people.
Gotcha. Oh, so you were saying it was like the closed season?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense then. Tyler.
Okay, well, first off, I want to go over how I saw this movie. You know, I was really kind of confused going in. I was gonna originally try to torrent it, you know, off of a very
illegal,
a very legal torrenting site. Now, but I was confused to find all of them.
That's not the illegal part.
all of them were just they were just cam rips. I was really confused because I would have assumed there was a DVD rip of a For Your Consideration.
Yeah,
that somebody would have gotten
a screener.
A screener, like somebody that, you know, I mean, because it's Oscar season, you would have thought that this was sent out to.
But it came out,
you know,
after.
Yeah, but it's never too early.
We're gonna get a screener
for your
next
consideration.
season.
Yeah, hopefully, because so I went and saw it in theaters. I mean, thankfully, so I could support, you know, this tyrant of a blockbuster film that's just been sweeping the charts these past few weeks.
This movie is a tyrant.
So we open up in 1992 in Alabama, near the Gulf, and
wait, you said 92?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Hurricane. I actually wrote down the hurricane name. Actually, before I get into that, though, we need to go over the director, Rob Cohen, who, as we know from the trailer, directed XXX and The Fast and the Furious. Mm-hmm. But that's just the tip of the iceberg as to this man's incredible filmography.
He did like a bunch of West Wing episodes,
did.
Right?
Well, those are just his writing credits.
Oh, okay.
And he actually only wrote specifically for Michael Douglas and Dule Hill, and he wrote for no other characters. So it was really weird.
Especially in dialogue scenes.
Yeah. And so he also directed the movie Dragonheart.
Okay.
He directed the movie Stealth.
I'm so excited right now.
He directed the movie Daylight, and he directed the movie The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Oh, you can't do that to me, Tyler.
So this man has a prolific career. And then, so we're in 1992. It's Hurricane Andrew in Alabama.
You mean like the rest of his career?
And there's a huge hurricane. You know, I mean, well, Hurricane Andrew, I already said that. It's going on. They're trying to, it's two kids and a dad trying to get out of the town before the hurricane gets in. And there's a tree falls down and the car gets, you know, run off the road.
Did anybody hear it?
Yeah, because somebody was there to hear it.
Okay.
This guy. And so they get run off the road and kind of stuck outside of it looks like a barn, or you know, it must have been a barn because, you know, farm, but nobody was in there because they all evacuated.
Sure.
But the car got stuck on like a big enough rock that it was like it couldn't drive. It was like being held up enough that it was. So he was like, okay, guys, get inside the house. And there's like still even like food everywhere, and so the kids are kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm sure it's fine. Like, stay in here. I'm gonna have to go try to like fix the car so we can get on the road. And so he's pulling out. It's one of those cars that has
like a winch.
Yeah, it has a winch on it. So he's like pulling that out and getting it around a tree, and he's trying to get it.
And then like just like Dennis Nedry, a Dilophosaurus comes out.
Oh, so you saw it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I guess I don't. Steve can continue from here. Steve?
Okay. So he's already stolen all of the dinosaur embryos.
And so he go like the hurricane's getting shitty, and the kids are like, oh, you know, what's going on, Dad? Is he gonna be all right? And of course, the one kid's like, it'll be fine. He's dead. Like, they're young enough that it's like, he's dead. Nothing can hurt him, you know? And they look outside, and he's like, oh, kids, you're gonna... And what are those things called that have, like... It's like the water. It holds all the water for like
a water tower.
Yeah, water tower. And then what are those things called that?
The Animaniacs.
No. They have like it's like a vehicle that has like steam, and it goes over things, and like it uses the steam to flatten the things.
Steamroller?
Okay, yeah. So he gets steamed rolled by a water tower.
like it falls over and starts rolling toward them.
Yes.
Nice, right.
And they watch him get destroyed,
squished. Like, do you see like the head?
Does this mean we get a hard cut to 2015?
This is PG-13, dude.
Okay.
And
this
so
is a movie though that there probably will be an unrated. Release
one can only hope.
Yeah.
And so then the house that the kids are in is getting kind of like lifted off of its foundation. So the kids are like, oh shit, you know, they're falling down. And during all this, one of the kids looks up into the hurricane and he sees an evil skull look down at him maniacally, and then smash cut to.
Are you serious about the skull? Or are you making fun of the mummy?
Which one sounds best to you, Charlie?
I mean, either, I guess.
Okay, then I'm serious about it.
Okay. So just a giant skull looks down on him from the hurricane?
Yeah. And and then we cut to later in life, and Toby Kebbell and Bits is driving around, and he is now like a meteorologist, but he's not like a news meteorologist. He's like one of the like on the field, like go investigate, see like what's going on. So he's driving around one of those.
From Twister.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he works.
He has one of the Hurricane Hunter cars.
Yeah, he works for the government, so he has like one of those. Yeah, huge
pensions.
Yeah, huge pensions. Yeah, no, one of those like big hurricane cars, and he's driving around in that, and he's back in Alabama because another hurricane's coming in, and so they're like, hey, go check to make sure the readings are good. Meanwhile, in the Alabama town, there is the sheriff is holding a meeting with all his other cop guys, and he's like, in 1992, a hurricane came through here and took a town down. We're not gonna let that happen again.
So when the hurricane shows up, we're gonna shoot it.
That's what I was hoping for. But he was like, so we got to make sure that everybody evacuates. And so they're like, getting everybody out. Meanwhile, coming into the city is three big trucks that have a bunch of cash for the reserve in Alabama. I think they're really just transporting them to essentially shred them and get rid of them.
Yeah.
And they're being escorted. I say that because she's in one of the trucks with them.
Did you see Den of Thieves again?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that. I was like, Jesus Christ, another fucking reserve movie. But yeah, so they're being like escorted by this government official. It's Morgan Grace or whatever her name is, the girl from.
She's the expert. That's what she is.
Yeah, exactly. I
remember that from the trailer.
She was in Lost. She was Shannon in Lost for all those Lost fans. No, Morgan Grace.
Oh, that's her. That's the actress's name.
Yes.
Sorry, I never watched Lost.
Oh, it's Maggie Grace. My bad, not Morgan. But yeah, no, this blonde girl right there. Look at her. Okay. Feast your eyes on these blonde pixels.
Wow, there's like 4 of them.
And so they're driving down, and they're able to get around all the traffic because they still they're like, hey, she's like, we got to get this job done. Whatever. So
one more job.
Meanwhile, well, the one driver, I mean, he's ready to retire. So this is his last job.
Is he too old for this
him. And so then this is also when they're stuck in traffic, and since they're going on, but then somebody's car broke down, so it's all kind of like jammed, and she's like, get out of the seat, like let's switch seats, and she takes the wheel and she just rams into the car in front of her to push it back, and then backs up and then drives through the cornfield. Well, I guess it was a tobacco field, because the guy goes, you're ruining someone's tobacco crop, and she goes, well, fuck cancer, right, or something like that. She doesn't say fuck cancer, but it's something. She's like, save a few lives. So that was top notch. And then,
if anything, that would drive up the cost of cigarettes and probably just ruin more people's lives, because they'd spend more on cigarettes and then provide even less for their families.
Nah. And so then we cut back to Toby, and he's like flying some drones into the area, I guess, to get readings. Like he's on the harbor, and he's like
those Millennium Falcon ones.
Yeah. And he's like, man, this storm is this hurricane's going to be way bigger than what they're like projecting.
Hope I don't get cosmic powers from it.
And so
I hope I do get cosmic powers from it.
And so he contacts the guys, and he's like, hey, this looks like it's going to be way bigger than you guys are, telling everybody that's going to be that it looks. And they're like, no, I mean the projections show that. And he goes, damn your projections.
Yes.
That's pretty much the end
I'm
of that
surprised
scene.
we didn't get a Snapchat of that.
But then he
Tyler, hey, could you roll that back? I really need a Snapchat of him saying, damn your predictions.
Well, I mean, the theater was packed, so I couldn't, they wouldn't let me my own. And so then they're dropping off the payload. We find out that, quote, via a like an iPad FaceTiming. Like I guess she's like, hey, we might be stuck here though. Like we're delivering the stuff, but we might be stuck here because of the storm. And I guess the Federal Reserve has like such, it's locked down, so they're like, we might have to stay here. And she's like, so I don't know, when we'll get you back. And the guy's like, hey, I went to bat for you after Utah. You wouldn't even have a job if it wasn't for me. And
do we ever hear about what happened in Utah?
I'll get there. And so then I can see that you're intrigued, Steve.
I am.
And Charlie, you're taking notes off of my notes, which is interesting. But then also, Toby is like, because his brother still lives in Alabama. He's like, he's like, I gotta fucking contact him to make sure that he's, gonna like all right or gonna get out or something. He calls him and he just gets voicemail and he's like, oh, God damn it.
So now he's gotta go there.
And so he turns around, goes to, I guess his brother like owns a repair shop, but also like he like lives there, but it's in the sense that like the main area is where like, if you had a car, you brought it in like a garage, but then there's steps up to almost kind of like a loft area. So he just lives at his work. And, and it turns out that he's also like one of his jobs is he's almost like the repairman of the town. So even for the Federal Reserve, like they'll call him in if shit's going down, and the backup generator went down. So they send out Maggie to be like, hey, go get the repair guy and bring him over here. Meanwhile, all of those the truck drivers, turns out they're actually doing one last haul for this $600 million. They're not going to shred it. They're going to take it with them. And so they're holding,
like the Federal Reserve drivers.
Yes, the guys who drove the trucks to the So there's like all this hostage situation going down. They don't kill anybody at the start. What they do is they have like these tranq guns that they shoot everybody down with, and then they just kind of like throw them in a like locked room so that because they're like, we don't want to like we don't want to kill anybody. We just want the money kind of thing.
We just want to leave them in there till they die.
Yeah, and then.
You know that.
And so he goes to his brother, and his brother's kind of like, he I guess he's ex-military, and he's also like kind of a drunk, but he's just like, yeah, fuck it, I don't want to leave. And he's like, come on, just leave. And he's like, okay, well, help me board up the windows. And they start boarding up the windows, and then the girl comes and she's like, hey, are you the repair guy? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, the backup generator fucked up. Like, you need to come with me. And he's like, okay, cool. Let me get my tools. And meanwhile, he says to Toby, he's like, so you mind finish boarding these up? And he's like, what? And they just leave. And he's like, are you serious?
And he's just no longer in the film.
Yeah, that's it. No, and then also, so the hackers are trying to hack into the system of the safe, but they're not able to do it because they find out that the code was changed from what they thought it was initially. Like, they had all this time.
What's the point of hacking?
Well, they had all this time to get into the system prior on the lead up to figure out the password.
Okay.
And so they figure out the password, and when the time comes for them to be like, okay, yeah, we're entering the password, it turns out it got changed, but the only way it can get changed is from a DC official. So they're like, well, that girl that was with us changed the password, obviously, like when she showed up.
Yeah.
So she's the one who has the password. Like,
so now they have to kidnap her.
Yeah, so they're like, well, where the fuck is she? And they're like, yeah, she went to the repairman. And
let's kill her.
And so they show up. She shows up to the area, and she immediately notices none of the guards are outside. And so she's like, okay, what the fuck? And she's like, hey, you wait here. I'm going to go in, like, leave the car running and kind of stay down. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to, like, see what the fuck is going on.
Shoot everybody.
And so she's like, approaching the area as, a trained person would. And the brother...
I don't know if you're fucking with me when you say that. Like, you're like, she's approaching like a trained person would.
Definitely means somebody's about to something.
No, but like in the movie, I just imagine her just like walking up.
No, she's crouched.
Okay.
Yeah. And the brother goes, that's how it's done. To himself while she's doing that. I kind of skipped over this on accident, but when they're saying the code isn't going to work, they're like, we need some more time to be able to triangulate, the vortex to get like all this.
Do they immediately start typing furiously?
No, they say this, and the guy goes, English. And so they say 2 hours.
Like, we need to start running our code breaker program. Billy, you're up. And then it starts 1111 1112.
So they're able to. All this stuff happens, and it ends up that the brother gets captured by the bad guys, and she comes back to Toby, and she's like, "Hey, you know, this shit's going down. You know, your brother's there, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Okay, well." What are you laughing about?
So they drive his hurricane vehicle directly.
No. So they drive the hurricane vehicle to the police office. So they're like, if there's anybody still here, like, we can get help. So they go in there and they're like, hello, isn't it? And the sheriff walks out and he's like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Everybody was supposed to evacuate. And they're like, well, we're glad that you didn't follow your own advice. And then he's like, I'm, Billy or whatever the character's name is, because he grew up in the town.
Yeah.
He's like, and the officer's like, oh shit, I didn't recognize you. Yeah, what's up? And then he's like, yeah, this is going down at the Federal Reserve. They're trying to rob, blah, blah. And the sheriff says, I knew today was going to be a shit show. And then about 2 minutes later, the sheriff pulls out a shotgun on them and is like, put the gun down. Turns out he's in on it.
Thank God.
And they're able to. At this point, I'm just gonna be going. So they're able to get out of that situation, which was real sticky.
Out of the frying pan.
Because of the humidity down there.
Yeah, exactly. And I should just wrap this up real quick. And they're able to get to the they're able to get down there. Obviously, I mean, pretty much save everybody. And it ends in a 3-truck chase. Because the 3 trucks are like leaving and they're like in the eye of the storm, which is, I think he said it's like a 20-mile radius or something like that. And so they're.
Do they have to drive with it to stay
honestly,
within the eye of the storm?
I really should remember it because he says the exact line about 2 or 3 times that it's a 20-mile wall where in the middle of it, it's like a bright sunny day, something like that. I don't know. He says it a few times, and they're able to get on the trucks and then pretty much like get the truck and win. It's like a race for their lives.
Are they ever within the storm shooting at someone as they swirl around?
No.
Damn.
Well, no. Good. Well, there's a scene where. Well, I don't know if you want me to go. Do you want me to tell you the scene real quick then? There's a scene where
I'm sure we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then that's pretty much my movie.
Okay, Steve. Well, I will just tell you guys now. There will be pizza later on. A pizza question.
Oh, you ordered some? Oh.
No. So
then what kind of pizza do you want me to order?
Steve, tell me about something that surprised you with this movie, and not just like a cat jumping out of a trash can.
Okay, so it was kind of like a series of things. It all kind of happens at once. So the sheriff comes in, like after it gets called, he finds the daughter, and she is, of course, just kind of like she's been stabbed once at this point in the leg.
Okay,
she got stabbed in the leg and it's tied off, so she's limping.
How did she get away?
Her brother came in right as it was happening, and that he had the gun. So he comes in and he's like, get the fuck away from her, and drop the knife, and she dropped, like, the killer drops the knife, and he ends up not shooting her, which I was like, why are we not shooting her? Because I guess he just can't bring himself to do it, and his sister's like, give me the fucking gun, I will shoot this bitch.
Earlier, this is like a comment on something you said earlier. You said you didn't want to go into spoilers of the movie. You said there was like a twist.
No, I didn't say that I didn't want to do it. I just said that, like, we were going to get, like, I didn't want to, like, just go through it all because a lot of this movie was...
I thought you said there was a twist in your movie that you didn't want to...
No.
Okay, because I just imagined that it was like Christina Hendricks like pulls off her face mask and she has one of those clown masks underneath or something.
No, I didn't mean there was
her
a twist.
head
I
would
just
be
meant
fucking huge because it's a normal human head with a mask on top of it with another mask on top of it.
Well, no, my bad. It would be just a paper bag.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So as she's talking to the talking to the sheriff, he's like, "Whoa, calm down. You know, I'm here to help. Like, what is going on?" And she's about to like say it, and one of the people like comes out of nowhere. It just comes up behind him and slits his throat. And I was like, "Oh, damn!"
So when is it revealed that he too was in on it?
Immediately afterwards, she was like, "I can't believe no." So
I can't believe
took one
she
for the
bought it.
team.
So she, so the stranger has slit his throat, and he like falls on the ground. So the daughter, I'll use her name is Kenzie. So
Sure.
she gets in in his cruiser, closes the door, and is trying to get in, but he doesn't have his, like the keys are out, and the stranger has the keys. So she's like, "Fuck," and she's unlocking the door, and so as she's unlocking the door, she kind of slides over to the next seat and finds his shotgun.
Yeah.
And so she's like trying to unstrap it from like its secure position.
Yeah.
The girl comes in, cuts her hand cuts her a few times on the hand. She ends up kicking her away, unlatching the shotgun, and just unloading a round directly into her chest. And somehow that doesn't kill her because she gets out and walks up to her, and the girl's on the ground.
Well,
she takes her Kenzie takes her mask off and is like, "Why are you doing this to us?"
Is it one of those double-barreled shotguns
No.
that has two? Oh, okay, damn.
She's like, "Why are you doing this to us?" And the girl just goes, "Why not?" And of course she's bleeding out her mouth. And then it just goes to a wide shot from the side, just shoots straight in the face. And I was like, "Oh damn! I was not expecting that to happen."
And is that
in
when
this
you
movie.
vomited?
Yes, onto the only other people in the theater.
Oh, so not many
You
people.
sat
were-
right behind the only other people in the theater, dude. That's
No.
fucking-
So not many people in your theater, huh? That's interesting. Huh.
That's Sunday morning. The movie's been out for like 4 weeks now.
Keep making your excuses.
But I was just surprised that like it was just cool because like she had already proven that she had already kind of been the one like, "I am going to shoot you if I have the opportunity."
Yeah.
And she finally gets her hands on a gun and just does not hesitate like her brother did.
And especially since it's not something where it's like, oh, they're threatening to kill me. It's, they've already tried.
Yeah.
Like, they have already
Yeah.
stabbed you. You know they're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just cool to finally like because in they kind
Cool
of
to
do it
see
in
a kid kill someone.
they kind of
It's
do
nice
it.
to see the tables turn for once.
Well, they kind of show that in the first Rangers where they start trying to fight back, but she like actually gets one of them.
Yeah.
So it was just
Did any of the other strangers see her do that?
yes.
Okay, so were they like, oh shit?
Well, I don't know if you.
Or are they so
He probably-
warped that they just
It's because
don't even care?
after she does it, she gets the keys for the cruiser, and she's
Yeah.
like trying to get it started. And as she's doing that, the lights of the truck show up behind her, and you
Yeah.
just see a long shot of the truck coming in to hammer the car to like keep her from being able to get away.
Gotcha.
But I'm assuming he saw it happen
Okay.
because that's the like the burlap sack head
Yeah.
guy.
What shocked you, Tyler?
Just how amazing this movie was. No, so what shocked me was that so there's a scene in this movie where they kind of take wait, hold on, I don't know if I want
Sharknado?
Yeah, Sharknado. Well, you know what really shocked me?
Sharkcane.
What really shocked me is that later in the movie when the sheriff comes to pick up his money, he double crosses the guy, and he's with like some of his sheriff buddies, and they're like, "No, we're gonna take this money now."
I mean, I guess if you've already committed the crime, fuck
Yeah.
it.
So
And then O'Shea Jackson.
so they shoot him, and
Wait, the sheriff or the sheriff shoots the driver?
the guy shoots the sheriff.
Okay.
But he didn't shoot the deputy.
Damn it.
Because immediately all the other cops were like, "Hold your fire!"
After he already kills the guy? Their friend and leader?
And they're like, "We can strike a deal." And so they do.
Are they miners? Like, are they like 49ers? Are they going out to get some gold rush?
And so that was shocking that the sheriff, was a double crosser. I didn't think he was going to be a double agent like that.
And that the other guys think that they can persuade them to trust them again, even though they just double crossed them.
And also another shocking moment. I am just going to go ahead and say this. Oh, fuck. I'll use this here. So another shocking moment was when the character there's a scene where they're kind of taking a load off for a little bit because they're hungry. And he's like, "Oh, I know what you need. You need some PBJ." And he's got peanut butter and jelly sandwiches inside of his car, like that are labeled for throughout the week. That
So he gets rid of Wednesday?
Ugh.
No, Monday actually, Monday and Tuesday, and so they're eating, and
That last one would be so soggy and gross by the end. Unless he
maybe
did
he goes peanut butter
jelly.
with jelly in the center.
Even then,
it's a gamble.
yeah.
and then this really this really deep and intricate dialogue exchange is
All I'm
said
thinking is like you're
where-
gonna say some sort of BJ joke or something.
where the girl eating the sandwich, she's like, "Oh man, this is so good." She's like,
No.
is this Jif? And to which he responds, "I'm a Skippy guy, so it's Skippy."
I thought you were gonna say like, no, only Peter Pan for this guy.
And I was shocked.
So you're saying that he's not a choosy mom?
I don't know. I thought that exchange.
Well, then I've got a second shocker as well.
Oh, okay.
To go. It's
Overachiever
actually another.
here,
It's
James.
actually what you did too.
You learn they actually kill this family because they're Skippy people.
No, it's actually another death of one of the other strangers. The son.
How many are there about?
There's three. Well, there's three strangers, and two of them are killed.
Gotcha.
The two girl. Well, I'll explain. We'll get to the full explanation. But
It turns out the daughter was a stranger.
the brother is
To her own family.
after his sister gets stabbed in the leg. He like has her stay. He tells her to hide underneath one of the trailers.
Sure.
He's like, I can't. He's like, I can't. I'll get there faster on my own. I know this is like not the best idea, but like we'll be caught out in the open if we're both going, and I'm trying to like carry you. He's like, I'm gonna run, try and get to the phone, and that's when he's attacked at the office, and he grabs like a golf club, and ends up out in the back by the pool, and one of them comes to attack him with just a knife, and he just hits her with a golf club right in the face, grabs the knife
You're
from
talking
her
like a driver or like an iron?
like an iron.
Oh, nice.
And he gets the knife from her and ends up just stabbing her like 6 times in
Yikes.
the chest. And it's just one of those things where you're like, oh, so he's finally snapped. Like he just because this is after he couldn't shoot one of them.
Yeah.
And so now he just stabs her like 6 or 7 times, and he gets up, and that's when the guy with the burlap sack comes in with the axe. He's like, you like that? I killed her. Like, you want some of this too? Like, he's just full gone at this point.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of shocking to see, like, after he wasn't able to shoot somebody,
Yeah.
that, and he's got blood splatter all over his face.
What does the dude with the bag say then? Anything or not?
No, he just keeps walking at him, dragging his axe, so you get that, like, metal grind on concrete sound, which is it's very unsettling.
Is that how Dave Bautista's character in Guardians of the Galaxy got his name? Because he used to drag axes around, so they would call him, drags. Drags. Drag.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, I shortened that down to from what it originally was. It was going to be a lot longer.
Thanks. I'm curious to see what happens between their interaction then. Hold on, let me say.
Well, I'm assuming that one drops their pants.
What was definitely and totally the most realistic part of your movie that would absolutely happen in real life, Tyler?
Perfect. Okay, I'm glad you asked this, Charlie. Thank you. Thank you for the question, first of all, and for the opportunity to be here, and for the
Opportunity to
see,
think through your movie.
Well, to see Hurricane Heist. So there's a scene where they're inside of a mall. I know, crazy, and
that's it. They were in a mall.
They get the because the guys are looking for her,
Yeah.
So they're still kind of driving around, and they're like,
Have they gotten the like? Do they still need her for the password?
Yes,
Okay.
they're like, yes, actually yes, because they found out they were like using a cell tower to help them hack into the system or whatever. They found that cell tower using that Hurricane vehicle, like
Sure.
it could track and saw that only one cell tower was being used, so they brought that down.
Yep.
I believe that was before this, so now they're definitely like, well, fuck, we definitely need her, like we can't just buy time.
Probably already done more than $6 million worth of damage by taking that down.
Maybe. No, oh, sorry, it was 600 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I said 6 million earlier, I apologize.
You
I misspoke.
probably didn't. I probably fucked it up.
And so they're in the mall, and they have already kind of like taken a a walkie-talkie
Okay.
that they're all using, so they're able to be like, hey, we'll negotiate. She's like, I'll come over if you bring Toby Kebbell's brother to this area, to the mall. I will come with you guys to help you, like, so that we know that he's safe. Like, we'll negotiate this shit. And they're like, okay, cool. So they come to the mall. Meanwhile, they're at the mall, which, I mean, obviously has some place like, I don't know, Dick's Sporting Goods
Do they
or some
set
shit.
it up Home Alone style?
No, they do not. What they do is, so TK, he has a watch that tells the atmospheric pressure in the area. And so they're kind of like buying time because the storm's like coming in pretty heavy. So they're kind of like buying time, and he's like looking at the pressures to make sure it gets to a certain height. And when it does, he's pretty much like, now. And she shoots up into the sky, the skyline glass. You know how malls have like that?
Skylight.
Skylight. Yeah, that's what I meant. She shoots up, I think, probably like a flare gun that she got from the sporting goods store. And so that bursts open, and since that pressure built up, it just starts sucking everything out of the mall, which, you know, would happen 100%, scientifically proven. But they have themselves harnessed so they're able to. I mean, they're able to.
Those pipes go really deep into the ground.
They're pulled up through the window, but they are like they're fine. They're just floating around. Meanwhile, these dudes are flying out, and the brother is able to like dive out of the way.
Because he knows that's what's going to happen.
And he's able to get out the front door. So yes, 100% scientific, actual kind of. I mean, it's really impressive when they do stuff like that in movies. When you're like, oh man,
I can't
I'd like
even
to
tell if this is CG or not.
and it's like I'd like to I'd like to meet the consultant they had to just be like, dude, like, what was it like? You know, what is it like to finally have like proper?
Definitely had a consultant
to have
It's
proper
the same guy
representation
for Interstellar.
Probably. I mean, to have proper representation of the scientific facts like that, like
Yeah.
how it would really happen. It's just always.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Yeah, I think I accidentally pulled this. Yeah, okay.
So, Steve, what was your favorite part of the movie?
My favorite part of the movie? Ooh.
So earlier when you said that he stabbed the guy, was that was the club that he hit him with? Was that like he removed the tip of the club?
No,
said
he
he took the girl's
picked up her
Oh, okay,
knife.
damn it.
No.
Was it
Stab
was
with
it a Swiss Army
pitching
knife?
wedge.
No, it was the butcher knife.
No.
But my favorite part of the movie is it's actually like right near the end. So she ends up more or less.
When the credits started rolling.
No.
Sorry,
No,
Charlie. I was like
Classic.
rubbing your foot.
Classic.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, I couldn't feel it.
No. So after Baghead like rams the car, like he
Hey,
rams.
like
dude, he's got a bag on his head, but don't call him a baghead.
Oh, I was going to say, is that a distant relative to that guitar player?
Who was just here in St. Louis last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, dude. Where do you think he stayed?
So
He hit up our Airbnb.
So Baghead like rear ends the police cruiser, and then goes around and he like sideswipes to try and keep her from getting away. And when he does that, he punctures the gas tank on that car. And she's a smoker, so she pulls out her Zippo and drops it in the gasoline.
Smoker
and,
is in like dank Kush smoker?
Yes.
Or?
No, it's just cigarettes. But she lights the cars on fire, and you think he's dead. And as she's like trying to get away, the car backs up and starts driving after her, and it's still on fire. And he gets out of the car and tries to chase her, and he ends up pulling out some glass from his stomach or whatever. So he is like, the part of the bag is burned away, and you can see part of his face is burned, and he's looking real rough. But she ends up getting away from him and like running to the road and stops a car and is like, help, please. And as the woman gets out to like help her, she starts to run back and gets in her truck, and the baghead's there again with his axe. And as the woman's starting to drive, Kenzie like climbs up into the truck and gets in there, and he gets in there too. She's like, drive! And so this guy is hanging on to the back of this truck as it's driving away, and she ends up finding a sports bag in the bed of the truck. pulls out a baseball bat and just cracks this dude with a very satisfying thunk in his head and just knocks him off this like speeding truck as he rolls into the bushes.
And then does the rest of the bag ever burn away to reveal that behind the mask the whole time it's actually also Luke Skywalker?
Oh.
No, I was with Charlie. But no.
Damn. That would have been some great like deep double meaning.
No, it was just cool because
it's subtle.
Because especially if you've seen the last Strangers movie, like I know Tyler has, but in the first one they just get away with it.
Yeah.
And so it's like nice that these people,
these terrible people
get it. Get what they deserve in the end, but that this girl, and I think it also kind of shows what it's like when the area that they were kind of using in this one was much bigger. I think they were trying to use too much, and kind of it just like shows it getting away from them, right? Because in the first one it's all about like a small house, whereas this one they're kind of trying to use this whole park to mess with them, and it's like, I mean, you can't cover all the bases if you're trying to use that much area.
It is interesting that that's the more satisfying conclusion, like right away in a movie like that, where they get the comeuppance. But I know I didn't like that initially when I first saw Strangers. That it's just they just get away with it, and I was like, what the fuck, like what? But like looking back on it, it's like that's a pretty like cool ending.
I agree with you, except for the fact that I hated how it ended in the first Strangers because they stopped those kids, the little Mormon kids handing out pamphlets, and they stop, and the kid gives the main girl one, and up until this point, the Strangers had not said a single word in that one.
Episode, I remember.
Yeah, and the kid gives her one, and he's like, "Are you a bad person?" She's like, "Sometimes," and I was like, "God, it was just so much creepier when they just didn't say anything."
Do you know if it's the same?
That's what I was about to ask.
I don't believe so.
Is it supposed to be the same people?
I think it is. And I think that's why they're not the same actors because the last one.
I don't know if you I don't know if you did any like background research, but like how much of. Because I know it's supposedly based on true events or whatever. Like, did you look into that at all? Like see if this was, because I think that is. I heard that it was more of. I thought that the first one was more of just on that, almost like an urban legend of like somebody killing like a random.
I mean, I thought it was just based on true events, and that it's like random crimes have happened.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was like a couple was found at this like remote farm, murdered, and like the whole area was all messed up, and there was just no suspects ever.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. That could be too. I don't know. All right, Tyler, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to say?
Oh, final thoughts?
Yeah.
What about the pizza?
Yeah, you don't want us to do pizza?
Oh yeah, duh, I almost forgot. Yeah, pizza, please.
So
Steve.
Damn it.
So my pizza would probably have to be a broccoli and beef pizza.
Okay. Which does sound good.
So when they first get to the trailer that they're in, the dad opens up the refrigerator and there's some old Chinese food. It's just and he eats it. Like it's just Chinese food that they have no idea like where he's like, "No, it's good." And he eats it and she's like, "Do not eat that." He's like, "No, I love this stuff." It's like, "No, you have no idea how long it's been there or what's been done like that's just disgusting." But I mean, when he said it, I was like, broccoli does sound like it could be kind of good. And now that you've said pizza, like I could imagine like some beef and broccoli on a piece of pizza. Then I'd be down for it.
Tyler.
All right, so
the
pizza man comes to the door, and he rings it.
And they shoot out the skylight.
He waits a while.
Pat O'Brien's hurricane drink just dumped on a crust.
He waits a while. No answer.
It's
he knocks
5
this time.
PB&Js.
No, okay. So yeah, the pizza man comes to deliver. The guy gets it, opens it up, sees that on top of the pizza is in fact. So in this movie, the lead character throws hubcaps as death frisbees. He throws them into the wind so that they get super fast and like stab people in the chest and shit like that. I wanted a head to get cut off, but it didn't. So this is covered in death hubcaps, is what I like to call them. Death caps.
Doesn't sound very good.
With peanut butter on top of it, and the guy goes,
"I'm coming around."
The guy goes, "Hey, wait!" He looks to his girlfriend. He's like, "What is this? This doesn't look like Skippy to me." And that's when the pizza man pulls out a gun and he's like, "Give me the money.
Get jiffed on.
Give me the money and eat the jiff." And the guy's like, him and the girlfriend are like, oh no, what do we do? And that's when the girlfriend pulls out her gun. She was in it on it the whole time. But it turns out she wants her share. She wants all of it. She's been in the game too long. She deserves to go out now. So she turns to the
This
pizza
isn't just a
man.
boys' game.
Exactly. She's tired of playing second fiddle. And so she
hates the fiddle.
she points the gun at the pizza man
As a matter of fact, Charlie Daniels is one of her least favorite artists.
and says, "I'll never jiff again."
That sucks.
To where the pizza man shoots him, and then I'm done. I didn't think this
All
far
right.
ahead.
Tyler, do you have any final thoughts about your movie? Any final moments you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I mean,
The same will go to you, Steve.
there's so they're in the trucks. It's like a line of 3 trucks, and what they do is they the brother and TK come up to it, and they jump onto the first truck, kind of like leave their car behind. They just use it to get up to the truck
Sure.
and jump on the back of it, and then they climb to the front, and then they're able to. The back truck is the one with the 2 hackers,
Yeah.
and so what they do then is
Beat them up because they're nerds.
well, what they do is one of them they go on either side. And so what they do is like one kind of gets their attention, and they're like, "Oh fuck!" and they're shooting at him, and then the other one just comes in through the other door and is like, it shoots one of the guys in the arm, and they're like, "Oh fuck! I'm fucking shot, bro."
Totally sounds like hackers.
Sounds more like Gone in 60 Seconds than
and
Fast and
then
Furious.
and so then the brother's driving that one, and then the girl is in one of the trucks as well. It's like the next truck is the girl and one of the henchmen, and then the final truck, like spearheading it all, is the main bad guy.
Okay.
And so they get the guy. TK gets in onto the other truck, and he's able to. They fight their way so that the people in there are pretty much donezo, and it's him and the girl. And then what they do is they come up behind. They kind of like sandwich the bad guy's truck, and then make it so that he has to like brake to stay behind them, so that then the wall of the eye kind of like catches up to him. So then he gets hit. The truck bed gets kind of like pulled off. Well, first the doors open and all his money goes out, and he's like, "God fucking damn it, my money!" And then the truck bed goes up, and he's like, and he's like screaming out the window, and you see while he's screaming out the window, it's like a ground shot looking up. And he's like, and you see the bed coming back down on top of him, and boom! It blows up.
Baby!
Oh, yeah, lands on top of it, baby. He blows the fuck up, and then he gets pulled into the hurricane, and then they just drive off to the fucking sunset that they can see since they're in the eye.
Okay. Is that all?
Well, I mean, for the movie, yeah, that's how it ends.
No other moments or any other final thoughts?
Let me double check my
All right,
my
Steve.
notes real quick.
So there was like a really cool scene. So the dad is with the son, and they get in the van because they find Christina Hendricks. She's the first one who dies of their family. While her and her daughter go back to the place to call for help and find all their cell phones destroyed, she's like going through the different cell phones trying to get one to connect. And the daughter, Kenzie, sees one of those strangers come in, and they end up hiding in the bathroom, and there's like a skylight that opens up in the top. So they're trying to go out there, and as they're doing that, the stranger breaks through the door and ends up stabbing her while the daughter is like up there watching and then has to like run away. So when the dad and the son find Christina Hendricks, they get in their van and they're trying to leave, and someone ends up throwing like a cinder block onto the car as they're driving away and causes them to crash. And the dad kind of gets railed by a piece of windshield. He's like pinned to the car with a giant shard of windshield, or it might be a piece of wood from the deck that they run into. It's kind of hard to see, but he's more or less kind of caught there. And he tells his son, he's like, "Here, take this gun. You're gonna need it. Like, go get help." And so he runs off, and after the son runs off, Baghead comes in and just like gets in the passenger seat next to him, and like turns on the radio and finds a song to listen to while he's just kind of sitting there. And the dad is just trying to kill this guy. So he's doing his damnedest to move and get to him, but he's real messed up.
Yeah.
But just the pain and of like effort of him trying to get to this guy was like super intense, and it was probably one of the best. I find a lot of times that like horror movies have like really surprisingly good performances in certain spots, but then like other things just look real bad.
Sure.
And this was one of those times where I was like, man, this is a solid performance of this guy like really fighting to survive and or kill this guy who's like attacking his family.
Okay, what happened in between Baghead and the son again? I didn't hear that part. I thought
the
guys, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Bagheed. So I don't understand.
The son. Okay, so
Baghdad, if he's the father of
Yeah, that's
the
right.
child,
Yeah,
the
right.
child stranger.
okay, so that whole scene happened. That's pretty much over. What ends up happening is after the son stabs one of them, Baghead's coming out and he's got the axe, and he's like, "I killed one of your friends.
Yeah.
How does that make you fucking feel?"
That's what I want to know.
And
what happens.
the kids, he's kind of he's more athletic. He plays baseball. And so Baghead comes at him and he's swinging the axe and he's getting some good dodges in, but he ends up like falling backwards into the pool. And as he comes up, Baghead tries to like basically down chop him with the axe, but he gets out of the way and grabs the axe and flips him into the pool. And so they're struggling.
Start making out.
Yeah. So he's trying to. He's trying like struggling with Baghead. The axe is now gone, like on the ground, and they're just like fighting back and forth over the knife underwater.
Is that a euphemism or is that like an actual weapon?
It's an actual weapon.
Oh, I didn't know if you were like.
Knife, that classic euphemism for penis.
But the son ends up dropping the knife, and he thinks like it's far enough away, and he's like, I just got to get out of here. And as he runs away, but Baghead has gotten the knife and kind of grabs him from behind and stabs him in the water. So there's just like that slow cloud of blood, and what ends up happening is Baghead takes off to like try and look for his sister, but his sister had gotten there as well. Like she just ended up not staying hidden.
Yeah.
And she finally made it to the place and drags him out of the water. And
And
at the end of the movie,
At this point, you were hooting and hollering.
yes, I mean, and at the time, like you think, like, oh, he's clearly going to die, but at the end of the movie, he's on a respirator. He's like in a like he's at least asleep and alive in the hospital with his sister, and the movie ends with she's
the nurse turning around with a bag on her.
No. She's clearly like she's just woken up from a nightmare from like the whole experience. She's like sitting in a chair next to him, and she kind of wakes up from a nightmare that's clearly about what just happened. And she's getting a glass of water, and there's a knock at the hospital door, and I'm sure it's just like a doctor like trying to announce that he's about to come in.
Yeah.
But she just freaks out and drops the glass, and that's where it cuts. Like, clearly it's not one of the strangers. Like, it's just not a thing. But it's just kind of showing
I don't know,
where she's
so
at.
Clear
Like,
to me.
like her
She's
psyche now
doomed
after
for
the
a
whole,
while. Yeah.
Like she's at least going to be in a very tough spot for a while.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so I remember what the two things I wanted to bring up. One is at the end of the movie, after the bad guy gets sucked up, blown up, the guy sucked and blown. The TK looks in the rearview mirror and sees that skull, baby, that bad skull in the hurricane coming back for him. And then the credits roll. And also, I wanted to mention, so there's a scene kind of midway through with TK and MG, the girl.
McG?
No, I wish it was McG. He was probably a consultant. And so they're talking about. She's like, hey, it's kind of weird, like. You're afraid of hurricanes, but like you do this like because he's a doctor, like he has his PhD like
In hurricanes.
In hurricanes. Yeah, I'm so confused. So you guys saw the movie?
Doctor of Hurricanes.
Well, no, there's a scene where
bad.
she says Mister to him, and he's like, no, doctor. And she like kind of laughs at him.
I didn't spend 8 years in hurricane school to be called Mister.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. But she's like, okay, yeah. I mean, it just seems really. It does seem really personal for you. To which he says, "I just hope you don't have to see someone you love die right before your eyes." To which she says,
I already have.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, back in Utah, I made a wrong decision. Someone got killed. So, it's really nice to have that great
that closure.
It's character building.
development, yeah.
I do have one thing to say. So, Charlie, remember when that girl was in the tube? And she, comes out, and you're like, how long has she been in that tube?
Was that just her birth?
Yes.
Okay.
No, so it was kind of hard. Once again, it was kind of hard to see because it was dark, intentionally so. But it's either one of those tubes at a playground where it's essentially like a T. So you go in one and then you can turn. And so she probably she wasn't necessarily in there previously.
Gotcha.
She just snuck in from the side because it was either that or it was one of those conduit things that you would bury for water drainage or wrap cable or something. So it was one of those two things. So it wasn't just she was just hiding in there and
that's
hopes
a
that this
shitty
girl...
place to hide then.
Yeah. Well, I think it was mostly just because it was kind of out of visibility because at the time she was being chased by the guy in the truck.
I'm just imagining Steve requesting somebody to turn on a light at the movie theater. It's so dark.
There's a
totally
lot of...
not because I'm scared.
Can I get at least a nightlight in the corner? I brought my own if that helps.
Is that the girl that's the girl stranger that gets killed later on then, right?
Yeah, both they're...
How does she not just get her right then? Or do they kind of toy with them too?
They're definitely toying with them because at this point they've not been... No one's really proved the challenge for them at this point.
Gotcha.
No one's really done anything to really stop what's happening.
Gotcha. Okay. Then I guess I've basically come to my decision. And I would rather see Strangers.
Yes!
No fucking way. I thought this was a shoo-in.
I thought it was going to be at first too after I saw the trailers, but then hearing too much of that was just oh,
that's why
no.
I said all that stuff, because I thought I was preaching. I thought I had the right audience. I was saying the right things.
It was almost too much, though. It wasn't the good balance of, this is shitty good, but still kind of cool.
But the
It was more like, this is shitty. I didn't know. I thought you were lying about that.
I'm still not sure if you're talking the truth about that.
Oh, no.
Well, then when Steve asked about the mummy thing, you were like, well, I don't know. Whichever sounds better.
And that's why I still wasn't that was one of those things where after the cast ended, I was going to be like, no, but for real, Tyler, was that skull there?
Because I didn't know if you would think that it sounded too stupid or if you would be cool with it.
I think we all know that answer now.
Yeah, that skull was there, baby.
Actually, that would have been a pro, but I just thought you were lying.
It doesn't help that I conveniently remembered that it showed back up at the end.
Did it also show up there?
Yes, yeah, it did.
I now wish you had taken a picture of this.
I mean, it really did look like the mummy. It looked like the mummy out of the dust thing. And it was very jarring.
All right, can you tell me what you really think then, Tyler?
I mean, I pretty much laid it out on the open the whole time. This movie was ridiculous. And also, there was only one other person in that theater. It wasn't packed.
No shit, dude.
At least I had a couple.
No, it was one dude that walked in by himself and looked up at me, probably both resigning ourselves to the fate of seeing this movie. I mean, you guys probably didn't think it was as funny as I did. Maybe it's funnier seeing it play out, but that whole GIF Skippy thing was so
I'm sure.
fucking funny to me. Because of just the line, I'm a Skippy guy, so it's Skippy. Oh my fucking god.
I'm a Skippy guy, so it's great value brand.
And then she's like, I mean, this is definitely Smucker's jam. He's like, oh, you got it. Good job. I'm like,
wait,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Seriously? That happens?
Yes.
Smucker's, a.k.a. one of the only jellies you can even buy.
Exactly.
He only uses Goobers, Swirl,
and animal.
And then I also thought it was pretty fucking funny how she said the scene's real personal thing, and then he immediately just went, I just hope you don't ever have to see this. And then I was like, oh, that'd be funny if she was like, I did. And she's like, well, back in Utah. And I was like, oh god.
But is that as far as she goes into it?
As far as I remember, yeah, we never find out. I thought that was funny too. The whole I went to bat for you after Utah. I mean, a lot of these are just me writing down quotes in the movie. I wish that I would have gotten the exact thing the hacker dude said before the guy goes English, because I mean it was nonsense. I think he said the word vortex, and I was like what? But and then I mean you just love that, and I was really confused though because the girl he was with was also supposed to be a hacker, but she like wasn't wearing glasses, and I definitely never
weird.
saw her hold a clipboard or anything.
Really took you out of the
So
experience.
yeah, I didn't get it.
Did she have her hair all tied up in like weird messy buns and ponytails and stuff?
No.
What the fuck?
That
scene-
scene.
They're never gonna get that costume
That's
Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. That scene in the mall, they do that whole thing to like rescue the
Practically.
brother. Well, they do it all to rescue the brother, right?
Yeah.
And then they just leave him there. Like legitimately, they just leave after that thing. They don't bring him with him. They don't like look for him.
Do you ever see him again?
Yeah, he just shows up on a fucking boat later in the movie, and he's like, "Hey, I'm here."
We can't do everything for everybody. Sometimes you gotta have people pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, Tyler.
And then yeah, Steve, you said that thing about shooting at the hurricane. I legitimately thought that's what that speech was leading up to, because he was like, "We're not gonna let this hurricane take out like it did last time. So draw your weapons."
No,
boy."
I'm
Don't
imagining.
do it till you see the whites of the eye of the hurricane.
I thought you were gonna be like, so they had these shells to like decompensate the pressure, and they just like shoot it in there to like neutralize the hurricane. And I was
That'd
like,
be
I was
incredible.
waiting for that.
And
shit.
then, legitimately, he did say that line about the eye of the hurricane, the exact same line, multiple times to like different people. He'd be like, "Well, yeah, the eye of the hurricane is this many miles, the border, blah blah. When you're in the middle of it, it's just like a nice summer day." But I was like, didn't I fucking already hear this shit?
you like walked up to go, hey, did he say that before?
I feel like there was one other thing that I was like just kind of confused by, because I was like, wait, what? Like, are they?
The price you paid to see this.
Yeah, drove fucking 35 minutes to see it at a reasonable time of day. So it is a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes somehow, and a 42% audience score though. That's actually pretty impressive that it's
Sure.
lined up that closely. I don't think I've ever really seen that before. Like the
Yeah.
audience and the critics really.
Unless it's like a 98% movie or something.
Yeah.
And even that, not all the time.
Toy Story.
So you know, we've got this one's just blowing through theaters on its way to streaming services.
Boo.
It's like the filmmakers went into the Die Hard store, stretched out their arms, rolled their eyes back, and bellowed, "Give me everything."
God. Give me.
This is a positive one. The Hurricane Heist is a ridiculous, it is a ridiculous movie, but in a way that takes itself completely seriously, which is what makes it great. That's the hallmark of Rob Cohen's genius. A negative, rarely as much fun as one might have hoped. Another positive, stormy action movie mixes gunplay, disaster movie peril, and then let's do. This is a pretty long one for a positive one. As absurd and stupid as the movie is, I enjoyed the part.
With the skull.
No, I enjoyed the part where they're bonding over PB&J sandwiches. I enjoyed the progression of the villain. The movie does drag on a bit too long. I'm putting this in my guilty pleasures slot, though.
Was it better than you were hoping for, or worse than you were hoping for?
Also, there's no critics consensus. That's why I did not read one. But I don't know. Steve, stop playing with that.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think it was as good as I was. It wasn't as bad good as I was hoping it would be.
Okay.
There were
the trailers I was
Yeah.
expecting a lot.
Yeah. I thought that I was going to.
I was fully expecting that at least two of the tractor trailers would be intact, get caught up in the storm, and at some point someone has to jump from one to one of the others.
Yeah.
in the storm.
honestly, I was a victim of my own hubris, because I thought the second I came up with that steamrolling joke that I was a fucking shoo-in. but
You flew too close to the sun
I did.
on a warm summer's day.
I shouldn't have
in the
even
middle.
I shouldn't have even mentioned the skull.
No, you
until
should have.
afterwards.
No. The skull is a definite positive. I just thought you were lying, so I didn't believe it. I thought you were just making mummy references.
I think it's funny that that's the one that, like, out of all the things that I didn't lie about anything.
I'm intrigued by the skull. But not if it's a lie. What I thought.
Just
at
wait
least.
for Hurricane Heist 2, Return of the Skull.
Here, Steve, if you want to, I got the app pulled up here. It's got the scores, and then there's a critics' consensus right above all the critics' scores for
Kingdom
Strangers.
of the Skull.
So first off, I guess, Steve, what did you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it was good. Like it was for the same reasons that I liked the first Strangers. I like this one
Your
because
inability to finish it.
yeah, no, it wasn't like there was some gory scenes, but it wasn't so overtly gory. Like they didn't just focus in on someone getting stabbed or anything. Like the stabbing, like almost all of the stabbing stuff was done off screen.
Yeah.
You know, so like there was a lot of blood, and like you saw the dad after the crash, so that was rough. But like Christina Hendricks, like you saw her get stabbed, but it was like the knife was behind her and things like that. So it was more about like the creepy atmosphere than it was about just overtly showing death and gore, which is what I like in a horror movie. Like that's more what I like, because even though it like freaks me out, and I'm kind of a bitch in the theater, like I'm more into that.
That's
than
the fun
I am.
part. Yeah.
Only in the theater too.
Right. Yeah, in the streets, I'm fine.
Well, I mean, you're a lady in the
Around in the
streets.
sheets.
You're a freak in the sheets. Yeah.
No, but so I enjoyed it. It wasn't overly memorable, and like the scene where she basically lights the cars on fire, and there's an explosion, and then he's just driving the flaming truck at her, and I'm almost like, all right, this is kind of where I'm starting to not be on board. With
Like
what's
when they start giving him like almost superpowers and stuff.
Because I think that's
sense.
one of the best parts of like these movies, because it's essentially like a group of Mike Myers without the Mike Myers superpowers, where it's just a bunch of creepy people not saying anything, just murdering people down, and also the one comes to the trailer and asks for somebody twice. So like, hey, is Tamara here? And like, no, I'm sorry, I got the wrong thing. Like, that was the best part of the first Strangers. Like, you don't get anything from these people. You know that they're human. Yeah. You know that they're there to just kill somebody randomly, and that's the creepy part.
You know, if you think about it, though,
I haven't seen it. So
if you're somebody who like wants to kill, it does make the most sense to kill random people,
right?
Honestly,
because
it's all. I mean, usually it's like it's almost like usually what do they say? It's like if somebody dies, it's like either the spouse or
like they always check someone near them first.
That's because that's usually who it is, somebody close. So, I mean not to say that I'm about to go on a fucking killing spree, but I feel like it kind of makes sense to a degree if you're a crazy person who wants to kill, to just fucking do it randomly.
Yeah.
That's why it takes forever to catch like serial killers that just travel across country till they start forming a pattern.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's why I do like it, but and it was cool. But then there's part like you always find in some horror movies where you're like, okay, so there's this other story going on that we're only getting kind of part of because they just have to jettison it. Yeah. Once like the murder begins to happen, because they're like, all right, there's this whole character development that we just have to abandon at this point.
The B plot isn't really much of anything.
Right. So
it sounds like I didn't make a terrible decision.
Oh no. I think it's fine.
I think you did.
I don't think it's as good as the first one.
Okay, I mean that sounds like.
But I mean that's par for the course for like most things, like regardless of genre.
Yeah, whenever
it's
they
usually pretty like the sequels always tend to be not quite as good.
Yeah,
as the first.
and lately when they've been doing these sequels to like weird comedy movies, like so much later on, they're always reviewed less than the liked less. So it's not a surprise that the comedy, it didn't bring the comedy chops that the first one did.
Right. So for this,
Steve, hold on real quick. One really quick question, because you made an interesting comparison. Now, if one of the strangers was like hiding in a boiler room up in the rafters,
would Vin Diesel be there?
No, and somebody was walking through, and they had to like silently get themselves down to the ground, sneak behind them. Would they too be able to do it like Mike Myers?
It's very possible that.
So they're yoked.
Wasn't that just on like the second story of a building? That wasn't in a boiler room.
I just meant like for a pipe for him to grab onto.
They do set it up. Well, they kind of make it seem as if Baghead is like superhuman at this point. I mean, to be fair, like the one girl takes a shotgun blast to the chest and survives.
I mean, I don't even think Superman could do what Michael Myers did in this movie.
The fortitude that Baghead has to like he's just in a flaming car for a while and gets out casually and starts chasing her down before he drops because he has like a very large shard of glass in his stomach that he pulls out.
Sure.
Like this guy, I mean, he does some stuff. So if he could, like, if anybody can, it is him.
Are you sure he didn't drop just simply because he chopped too much?
Well, he never popped, so he could stop.
Oh, fair enough.
So your reviews, Steve.
Yeah, well, what's the RT score there?
The tomato meter is 38%,
Okay.
but the audience is 52%. Right?
Interesting.
Wait, so where's the...
So lower critic score, but higher audience score.
Yes. The consensus is The Stranger's Prey at Night may appeal to fans of the original who've been jonesing for a sequel, but its thin story and ironic embrace of the genre tropes add up to a bloody step back. Which, I mean, I kind of agree. Like, you know, there's like some good stuff, but then they do end up killing everybody, and then like they kind of go away from like the human aspect of the murderers and kind of up their game a little bit to slightly superhuman.
Would you recommend it to somebody who liked the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely got that like creepy atmosphere. There is a scene where
And I'd do the same for Hurricane Heist.
there is a scene where Kenzie and her brother, I think his name is Lucas, they're in one of the trailers hiding out after they get away at one point, and the truck just drives into, like, they're talking, like, mid-sentence, the truck just blasts through one of the walls at them, and they have to like run away again. And this was the worst part is Kenzie goes into a different trailer to hide at one point, and she hears something and she goes to check it out, and it's a Jack in the Box, and when she picks it up, it like opens, and she's like you know, because that's supposed to be like a scary thing, but she's not like, she's like, whatever.
How many tacos were in there?
10.
Oh
Even
shit.
10. But she's not scared by the Jack in the Box opening because it's fucking Jack in the Box,
Yeah.
nothing. But then at that point, the girl who was in the tube too, she like crawls out from under the bed. I was like, okay, like I was giving you guys credit with the fact that she wasn't just hanging out in that tube, but now she's just hanging out under some random bed in hopes that this girl like hides
Well,
in
you
this
gotta
trailer.
sleep somewhere, man.
I guess. So here are a couple reviews. This is a fresh one. Has a slow and rather grim first half, but then in the home stretch takes a welcome turn into the seriously silly, which I never felt overly
depends.
silly.
Yeah, that's weird for those movies. I felt like the silliness wasn't really a part of the first one. It wasn't supposed to be silly.
And this is a rotten, and it makes pretty much sense, or pretty much makes sense. 2 films in, The Strangers has already become a horribly familiar franchise.
Oh, yikes!
Which there's not a lot you can do with
that's
this.
fair. Yeah.
This is a fresh one. In Unexpectedly an Anomaly, a sequel that both is better than and fixes the problems of its predecessor, which I definitely do not agree with. Let's see. Do you want some?
Well, with the home invasion movies too, it's always kind of. Just looking at my my movie collection over here, I was kind of reminded. Your Next is really the last one that I think has done anything new with it to an extent.
Yeah.
But even then, it was still paying homage to a lot of horror classics in a way. So it's weird for because Strangers just went 100% full on like with its tone. Like it didn't try to make it, which sometimes a horror movie will do, where it'll be like, hey, we're gonna lighten it up a little bit, make it a little bit goofy, kind of ease the tension. But the first Strangers was like, no, this is 100, like this is fucked kind of thing.
And that's how this one was too. One of the things that I did like is they did a lot with the music, because the soundtrack was mostly like kind of 80s pop, but they did a lot of scenes where they weren't just playing it over the thing, like it was as if you were hearing it from the source it was supposed to be coming from.
Gotcha.
So they when they're out at the pool, you hear it, and there's a scene where they're fighting underground, and you just kind of hear the warbled music as they're fighting. It's Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah.
So they're underground struggling, and you can hear like turn around and like
and
everything.
Was the music playing in the universe of the movie? Like, was it actually playing? No, I'm being serious.
Yes.
I believe that
as far as I know,
that's called diegetic. If the music you're hearing is actually playing in the movie, it's non-diegetic. If it's not actually playing in the movie.
Okay.
I believe that off the top of my head. I mean, I could be
So
pronouncing
all
that
the music
wrong or getting it backwards.
is
Dianetics.
all the movie is diegetic.
Uh,
Diegetic? Was that correct?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
So yeah, in the beginning, it starts off with "Kids in America," and like you hear it because you're kind of in the truck, and then they cut to them pulling up to the first house, and then it's more faint, and then it gets louder as they come in.
Yeah.
And it's cool that like pretty much all of the music was in the film.
And hey,
Gotcha.
mark this down on all our listeners. Mark this episode down as a milestone because I was in fact right.
Nice.
Diegetic sound is when the source is visible on screen, or it's implied to be present by the action of the film.
Sure.
Whereas non-diegetic would be, you know,
just
like
over,
a
like a score.
a score or something like that. Mm-hmm.
I forgot what I said is just answer to everything else in life.
All right. Well, that being said, check us out on all our socials. The movie versus podcast. Thanks to Jeremy Lamb for the theme song. Scott Blackwell for the image.
Andy Wisman for the photos.
Check out Beyond the Blast Doors for Star Wars stuff. Check out This Film Is Lit for movie versus book stuff. Check out Good, Better, Bad for more bad movie stuff. Critical Misadventure for D&D stuff. And then I guess other than that, we can sign off with our old classic sign off of you damn Skippy or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't think of a Skippy.
Smooth.
Bye.